Want help to grow your business? Download Bryn, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit bryn.ai or search the App Store today.
Hi, welcome to the latest issue of Think Global India series. And in this episode, we're going to talk about market entry strategies for India. My name's David Thomas, and I have with me Rahul and Ravi. Welcome, chaps. And we're going to, in this episode, really talk about how to get started with your India strategy. Now, India's a big place. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of opportunity. What does a business need to look like for it to be successful in India? What sort of size does it need, and how do you sort of work out whether you're ready?
I think the size of the business doesn't matter. I think the understanding the size of India matters more than the size of the business. What value proposition it brings to the table, what's it offering to the country? I think that's the key question. It's not the size of the business which matters at all, because we've seen several small companies doing much bigger business than big companies trying to do business in India. They fail sometimes. So the size doesn't matter, but what we are really bringing into India that matters more.
Yeah, do you agree with that, Rahul?
Absolutely, absolutely. The key point here is being a global market at the moment, everybody has got access to everywhere in terms of the internet, so they can see what exactly is happening around the world. So the company size doesn't matter at all. It's the idea, it's the product, it's the suitability for that particular market, which is going to play the key role for anyone to enter into the Indian market.
Yeah. So what do you need to do first to sort of modify your business to be ready for India?
Well, one of the realizations which most companies really don't make is India is not one market at all. It's actually a country with various languages spoken, various market differences, and then sometimes I tend to loosely comment that India is more like United States of India than India alone. So, you've got to have a strategy which focuses on the region and the type of product that you're really taking into the country, or the service that you're taking into the country, and then focus on that part of the market. For example, if you're talking from into mining, then we are looking at East India more than other parts of the country. But if you're looking at some other products like financial services or IT or whatever, then there are other regions of India which matters more to the company. So I think this understanding that India is not one market, I think that's the starting point. India is actually made up of various markets within itself. I think Rahul might add to this.
Look, Ravi is pretty much on the ball on that. The key fundamental in any business is that when you analyze the market, you need to look at what exactly the locals need. One shoe doesn't fit all. So same is the thing with India too. So if you look at especially the food giants, those who went to India, they were not successful initially because they had to modify their food as per the taste back in India. So the Big Mac may sound different here, but when you go to India, they don't eat beef at all. So they definitely don't need that. So these kind of things which people need to adopt to before they enter the market, and make sure that the product has a bit of local touch along with it. I'm just talking generic terms, not in a particular specific industry, but it has to be localized to suit the market down there.
Yeah, and we'll get into some of that a bit later. But for people who are perhaps going to India for the first time, and it might be hard for you to even imagine this, what should they expect? Do people speak English? Do they? What type of food should they expect? What should they expect as a kind of cultural shock when they arrive for the first time?
Look, the thing is, you'll be shocked to know that in India, Indians have adopted everywhere, wherever they are in the world. So people get this misconception because there's a lot of English-speaking people in India, and they speak the language really well. So the market is going to be very easy. It's not that. They speak English, but they're not Western people. They don't do the business the way the people in the West do. So it's a bit different. So when you land in India, the first realization you're going to have is you're going to see lots and lots of people. Okay, it's going to open up your eyes. You're going to see how they walk, how they talk, what they do, and in terms of food, there are hundreds of varieties of food. Every state has got its own different food. So in all those things, the key fundamental is you have to go there with an open mind. If you go with certain preconceived ideas that this is what is going to happen, that is where you will be disappointed. If you be patient, if you take one day at a time and you are there, it will be very different experience and to your liking.
Yeah, David, I may add, like, for example, almost every Indian is multilingual. He is mostly speaking 3 languages. So he might be very good with Hindi because that's the national language. He has studied in English through his schooling and college, so he understands English very well. And very often they have a regional language, which is their mother tongue in some ways. So most Indians, I tend to say that they speak 3 languages and they're quite good in it. Languages doesn't really define the customs or the family values. Most of them are family focused, but at the same time, there are stereotypes that when we are trying to get into the Indian market, we tend to imagine them as, for example, when we look at the elephants on your table there, that's a kind of stereotype which most of us really begin with. Similarly, when we really get to India, we tend to imagine that everything is corrupt or systems don't work, you've got to pay to get your work done. That's not so true. There is a way to deal with it, but we've got to first overcome the stereotypes before we really enter the Indian market.
Yeah.
So that's my...
So don't you see many elephants in India?
Well, you do if you want to be a tourist. It's almost like, I mean, if you go to a zoo or if you go to a national safari, yes. But if you are imagining that you land at the Delhi airport and you come out of the airport and instead of the taxi you'll have a rank with elephants, that's not going to happen.
Right.
So that's...
That's a bit different. I mean, moreover, the thing is, what Ravi, the point he's trying to make is that the stereotypes which people in the West, they actually believe about that is very different now.
Yeah.
India has moved on, and they're moving on very strongly in this century, since year 2000. So that's one big reason for everywhere in the world, everyone is looking at India at this point of time because of their growth, which is about 7% at the moment.
Yeah.
So I believe more and more companies, when they land up there, they are coming to realization that it is not the India what used to be 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And now they have to basically look at how they differentiate between the market they come from and the market they are in. Because there's a sizable middle class of 400, 500 million people.
Right.
And that is a big market for any consumer goods or any company which is actually trying to deal with a customer directly.
Yeah, and at the same time, and of course, the country is big and the middle class and the growing aspiration, but the company with whom you're going to work with or the people you'll work with are often educated around the world at some of the finest institutions. So in a sense, the Indian partner or Indian entity with whom you are dealing with is probably one step ahead than you because they know the local market, but they also know you.
Yeah.
Because they've often been educated at some of the finest institutions. They've worked with companies around the world. They have a very good understanding of what you are trying to get out of the market.
Yeah.
So it's slightly different to working in many other countries where you have got a little bit of an upper hand when you go in. But I think here the Indian partners got an upper hand over you because they know the market, they know you, and they know what you're going to deliver to them. So that's really how it is.
And for newcomers thinking about India for the first time, give us a bit of a picture of how India is organised, where government sits, what northern and southern differences look like, where you might start if you were going for the first time. I realise that that's quite industry specific, but how does the country generally organise itself to an outsider coming in for the first time?
Oh, okay, I'll just throw some light on that. The thing is, there's one company law as anywhere in any Western world when you go and you have to open a company basically to do. So that is where the government part is. So you need to get yourself organized by having somebody who could assist you in forming a company or whatever. But in terms of looking at the various markets, the topography of India, north, south, east, west, because of the cultural differences in between them too, the language difference in between them too. Obviously, depending upon the product, what product is it, you have certain metros like Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, Kolkata, and all that. So if it's a consumer goods you're looking at, your sense would be to basically try to look at something to have your offices in one of those areas. If you're looking at industrial kind of a product or a small to medium enterprise product, you will look at states like Gujarat, you'll look at states like Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Indore, where most of the industrial hubs are, if you're going to look for some manufacturing stuff. And then again, you look at these states are the ones which have got the options of providing you power, which is in abundance in those states, as compared to certain states in the northeast or wherever there are certain other barriers in terms of transportation and other things. So I believe the Central India, what you look at, the 3-4 states are perfectly suited for any business. And then you can have your head offices in in Mumbai and Delhi.
Yeah.
These are two main cities in which you could have your head office or your sales office or whatever. But in terms of the Central India, which you talk of Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, these are the 3 big states, those who have absolute great infrastructure in terms of providing you whatever you need to start up a small to medium enterprise.
Yeah.
I mean, David, slight difference here, because it also depends on what product and services you are taking to the country. So if you're looking at, say, services in information technology or finance and things like that, then you've got to look at places like Bangalore and Hyderabad and Chennai and maybe Pune and a couple of those markets. If you're looking at agri-based products, then you're looking at North India very strongly for anything related to agri processing and things like that. If you're looking at food processing, then you go up in the hills where you've got fruits and works like that. Looking at mining, then you're looking at East India. And similarly, so it depends a little bit on the type of the company. But to understand the question that you had, one of the big things to understand with India is that it's politically definitely a democracy. So, the kind of upheavals you tend to see in the Middle East or the issues that you have in China are not there in India. Yes, it tests us, it tests companies. We have to have patience. Things take years to happen, but it happens in the way we are used to see it happen. The judiciary is strong. If you believe something's been unfair to you, you can go to the courts and you can expect a judgment possibly in your favor if things are that way. Taxation, he talked about, yes, one common law, but I believe that things are moving very well in that direction. The accounting norms are very synced around the world. There's double taxation treaties now between several countries and India. And now India's also just recently approved the GST regulations, which means now we are talking about one common tax instead of every state having a separate tax system. So when we really look at it from a Western perspective, or for a company going into India, things are becoming very, very friendly in that sense. Yes, the human touch is always there. The human element is always there. And that's where working with a local partner and others come in, of course. But as far as the country is concerned, there is one common system. We have a country which works. It takes time, but it works. And frankly, the 7% growth rate which was mentioned, I think that's remarkable considering India is a democracy. Yeah. I mean, 7% growth rate for a democratic country is something which is unheard of. Yeah. Because I believe if it was not a democracy, we would be looking at 10, 11.
To continue enjoying this presentation, download Brin, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit Brin.ai or search the App Store today.